The Woody Herman Show.
On October 13, 1945, The Woody Herman Show took to ABC's airwaves. It was the third time the bandleader had been given his own series. ABC sold the time to Wild Root Cream Oil through the sponsor's agency of record, BBD&O. All parties involved gave the show one season. Ratings peaked in February with just a 3.9.
Right now, folks, it's when I take my sugar to tea.
By the spring, the sponsor and agency decided to cancel the program. However, they still wanted ABC's Friday night time slot. Simultaneously over at CBS, chairman of the board, William Paley, had begun to institute a packaged program initiative. Former CBS president Frank Stanton remembered that time.
I suppose that the radio network really came into its own after World War II, when we went very heavily into doing our own programs. Up until that time, almost all of the programs in the schedule were produced by outside organizations, bought by the advertiser, delivered to us by the advertising agency, and the advertiser was really in control of the schedule. When Mr. Paley came back from the war, he seized that opportunity to embark upon the development of our own programs, which would be owned by the company and sold to the advertiser. With that one concept and the implementation of it, network radio changed from an advertiser-dominated medium to a broadcaster-dominated medium.
During World War II, comedy, drama, news, and variety dominated the radio dial. But after the war, detective shows gained network popularity as programming shifted to smaller studios. They were considered a good deal for advertisers.
Well, Sam Spade is the detective of Dashiel Hammett. He is the hero of the Maltese Falcon.
Right.
The opening line in the Maltese Falcon of the novel is, "My name is Sam Spade." How better writing can there be from Hammett? Because he doesn't fool around. There's no waste of time. Lawrence White, who was Dashiel Hammett's agent for a great many years, had always wanted me to do Sam Spade in one way or the other, but I had always been too busy. But it came at the exact right moment somehow. One day he said, "Now how about Sam Spade?" after I was well launched into suspense many years. And I said, "Sure, let's do it."
Although Bill Spier was entrenched at CBS, he still had ties with BBD&O, his old agency, as well as with Lawrence White, Dashiel Hammett's literary agent. Both ABC and CBS wanted to bring The Adventures of Sam Spade to the air. Initially, Bogart was wanted as star.
The original plan had been first possibly to use Humphrey Bogart, who had played Sam Spade, of course, in the most famous version there ever will be of Sam Spade in movies. And Bogey perhaps would have been available. He would have cost us at that time $3,000 a week, which in radio was, and certainly is, big money. This whole Sam Spade show, the whole suspense show, never cost over $5,000 or $6,000. I said, no, I foresee adding all the things up on one side or the other, that it would be better for us to find an unknown and start with him, then be settled to a star, great as he is, who's going to be going into movies, who's going to be back and forth, there's going to be trouble, he's going to leave for Africa when you want to do next week's show, and we didn't tape things then. There were no, you had to do them live every week.
Even with Humphrey Bogart's drawbacks, it was assumed no other actor could fill Spade's shoes. Auditions were held in April of 1946. Enter Howard Duff.
I suppose we should begin at the beginning. I hadn't been out of the Army too long. They had this audition for this, what we thought was going to be a pretty good show. And everybody in town, all the so-called leading men, I guess, auditioned for it. And I was lucky. Apparently my voice quality I had appealed to Bill and the sponsors, I suppose. And I got it anyway, and went on for practically scale, but that didn't matter in those days. It was a good idea to do it. And then the show kind of gradually began to take off.
And I found Howard Duff, who had played numerous parts in the cast of Suspense and other shows that I did. We did the audition, and it was sold, I think, within 48 hours. I was very hot, if I do say so, at the time, and they were waiting for a show from me, and Sam Spade got started.
The House of Squibb presents Academy Award. Squibb brings you Hollywood's finest. The great picture plays, the great actors and actresses. Techniques and skills chosen from the honor roll of those who have won.
An audition was recorded on May 1st. In June, Wild Root officially signed on as sponsor. Spade would make its debut in July over ABC's airwaves. Not to be outdone, on July 2nd, CBS broadcast an episode of Academy Award adapting the Maltese Falcon. Humphrey Bogart reprised his role.
And now, E.R. Squibb & Sons, manufacturing chemist to the medical profession since 1858, bring you the distinguished star, Mr. Humphrey Bogart, who, as Best Actor of the Year, was nominated for the 1943 Academy Award. You will also hear Miss Mary Astor, who won the 1941 Academy Award as Best Supporting Actress of the Year, and Sidney Greenstreet, who was nominated for the 1941 Academy Award as Best Supporting Actor. Tonight, Mr. Bogart, Miss Astor, and Mr. Greenstreet will play the famous roles they created for the screen in The Maltese Falcon, the thrilling mystery which was nominated as Best Production of the Year for the 1941 Academy Award.
My name is Spade, Sam Spade. License number 357896, issued for the Police Department of San Francisco. Occupation, private detective, sometimes known as Private Eye. My files in the case of the Maltese Falcon are closed, but I've got the Maltese Falcon. I got it, and some dough. My partner got murdered, and a very slick chick went up for life. I'll tell you about it. This slick dame comes to see me one day, gives me a song and dance about her sister and a guy called Floyd Thursby. She wants us to get her sister back before her mother and father get in from Hawaii. I put my partner, Miles Archer, on the case. At night, he gets murdered. And so does this guy Thursby. I go round to the apartment where the dame is living, the one called Bridget O'Shaughnessy. She had something I seemed to go for.
Oh,
ABC's version of Spade was starting behind the 8 ball. It debuted 10 days later on Friday, July 12th, 1946.
The hair-raising adventures of Sam Spade, detective. Brought to you by the makers of Wild Root Cream Oil for the hair.
Sam Spade, Detective Agency.
Hello, sweetheart.
Sam, are you all right? Oh, I thought this time
I'm
for
okay,
sure.
sweetheart. Be right down to dictate my report.
Stinker. Getting me all upset.
I told you I'm all right, baby. But I gotta admit, it's been another hair raiser for Sam Spade. Dashiel Hammett, America's leading detective fiction writer and creator of Sam Spade, the hard-boiled private eye, and William Spier, radio's outstanding producer-director of mystery and crime drama, join their talents to make your hair stand on end with The Adventures of Sam Spade. Presented each week by Wild Root Cream Oil, the non-alcoholic hair tonic that will put your hair back in place again, grooming it neatly, naturally, the way you want it.
Lorene Tuttle played Effie. By 1946, she was one of radio's most renowned character actresses.
Effie Perrine was not written the way I played her in the original Maltese Falcon. She was just as much of a wisecracker as Sam. She was almost a masculine or a female Sam. And I discussed this with Bill Spier, who directed the show and, of course, wrote it, really. He wrote it with the help of a lot of other people, and some very fine writers were on it. Bill Tallman and Gil Dowd wrote it at the beginning. And he and I decided that it would enhance Sam's character even more, make him more masculine, if Effie were very kind and sweet and good, and kind of a soft little creature, you know, just a dear, good little girl. And we were proving to everybody that he went around and made love to a million other girls, but he always came back to Effie. And that was the essence of my characterization. That was the sweetness on the show, because he was always kidding me terribly. You know, a lot of it was ad-lib, too.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Spade.
Yeah, let's see. Date July 12, 1946, to Mrs. Gilmore. Subject, death of Bernard F. Gilmore.
On June 15th, after lunch, Going too fast for you, Effie?
You never go too fast for me, Sam.
Stick to your book, sweetheart. Where was I?
After a modest lunch on June 15th...
Yeah, I was sitting in my office brooding. It had been a pretty slim month in the private eye business. The city of San Francisco had been hit by a vicious wave of honesty. But that morning, the Chronicle had a nice, juicy story on the killing of Bernard F. Gilmore. You remember him, the co-owner of the St. Kitts steamship lines. I read it carefully. 2 weeks later, I received a call from the partner of the murdered man, a Mr. Emil Tonescu. He lived in Atherton on Old Oak Road, a very modest lean-to occupying only 10 acres. He was sitting by the swimming pool, wearing nothing but swim shorts and a highball, 40-ish, Latin type with a lot of white teeth. Tight above his left ankle was a gold bracelet about 2 inches wide. It was quite thick and had no clasp. It had been welded on, and in the center there was a small diamond.
Mr. Spade, come here. Come here, sit down.
Thanks.
Drink?
Thanks. Don't drown it. Nice pool you got here. This where you launch your ships?
Mr. Spade, 2 weeks ago my business partner was killed. 2 weeks and the police have done nothing. I want you to find the man who shot Bernard Gilmore.
Hit you pretty hard, huh?
Well, I am not a sentimental man, but Gilmore and I, we started our business with one tramp steamer. Then we immigrated to this country. I cannot forget our years as partner, and now...
Yeah, let's see. An unidentified Gunzel held him up and shot him around midnight as he was leaving the St. Kitts steamship office on the Embarcadero.
Correct.
His secretary, Miss Lena Best, was an eyewitness to the killing. She arrived at the scene in time to hear the shot, see Gilmore topple backwards off the pier into the water.
Yes.
The killer dropped the hull when the night watchman threw a slug after him. $600, a 10-carat rock, solid gold ticker, right?
Yes. The police found it on the pier.
Did he owe any money?
Well, he had a rather large gambling debt at the Calypso Club.
You say he immigrated with you to this country. I take it that Gilmore wasn't his real name.
No. He changed it a few years ago, after he started going with her.
Who's her?
His secretary.
The one that was on the way to meet him when he was killed?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Who gets the insurance?
The secretary, Lena Best. He wanted to marry her. She kept him dangling. He was getting tired of it. She knew that it could not go on.
Who gets Gilmore's share of the St. Kitts Steamship Company?
I do.
Uh-huh. Anything else?
Oh, one thing more, Mr. Spade. It might help you. Gilmore always carried a good luck piece in his wallet, a rare coin. It was the only thing the killer did not leave behind.
Yes?
Well, it has some sentimental value for me now. I presented him with the coin when we formed our partnership. Look here, Mr. Spade. Here's a picture of it in this little book.
Tonescu handed me a thin book printed on very glossy paper.
6 of the first 13 episodes were adapted from Hammett originals. The rest were written by Bob Tallman and Joe Eisinger. ABC wanted listeners to believe Hammett wrote the scripts, so Tallman and Eisinger received no credit.
On its face was a picture of a sailing ship. Under the photo of
Announcer Dick Joy recalled those first few weeks as a summer replacement on ABC.
When the show began, as you know, it was on the ABC for about 13 weeks or so, and we worked out of a small studio, and things were a little chaotic at times, and the cues were missed, and one thing and another. We wound up one show in rehearsal. It seemed to be a little short. They didn't want to add too much to it, so they had 3 Smokey the Bear public service announcements for me to read. One was about 45 seconds, and one was 30 seconds, and then there was the panic one, 15 seconds or something. And just before we went on the air, Bill was wandering around the studio, and he turned to me and he said, "Oh, yes, about those Smokey the Bear things, if we ever get to them, which I hope we don't. I'll give you 1 finger for the long one, 2 for the short, 3 for read the quick one and get off." So as it turned out, the actors expanded rather well on the show, and we not only didn't have any time for any Smokey the Bears, we also didn't have any time for much of anything. So when we got to the end, the orchestra came up loud, and then he faded them down, and he pointed at me, and at the same time he held up 2 fingers or something, and I looked at the clock in amazement. We'd done everything. We'd finished the credits, sponsor ID, and everything else. There was only 5 seconds left, and there was no time for Smokey the Bear and getting off on time, so I said, "Dick Joy speaking, this is ABC, the American Broadcasting Company," and that was it.
So the next week I came in, and I'm sure he timed this. Somebody probably tipped him off. He had his back to the door, and we were sitting around the cast table, and as I opened the door, he said, "You know, I have one observation about announcers." He said, "They're all basically rather stupid." And he said, all you have to do to prove it is, you know, like last week, just point your finger at him and he'll give his name.
Comedian, our good friend, WPP. So.
The makers of Chase and Sanborn Coffee bring you the Charlie McCarthy Show. This is Ken Carpenter, ladies and gentlemen, greeting you on behalf of Edgar Bergen, Charlie McCarthy, Ray Noble and his orchestra, Anita Gordon, Mortimer Snurd, Jack Mather, Verna Felton, and our guest for this Sunday, W.C. Fields. And here's Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy.
Charlie, why are you wearing those dark glasses? And what's the idea of that silly mustache?
You're mistaking me for someone else, sir. I am Maximilian J. Hecklefeather.
Well, just what's the idea of this get-up, Charlie?
And stop calling me Charlie, Bergen. I mean stranger.
Even though CBS had done its best to offset Duff's version of Spade, they immediately saw potential in the series. In the September 23rd issue of Broadcasting Magazine, it was announced that Wildroot would stay on as sponsor, while the program shifted networks to CBS in the fall. Meanwhile, at the National Broadcasting Company, Edgar Bergen's Chase and Sanborn program had been entrenched on Sunday evenings since 1937. Although the program remained in radio's top 10, their ratings had tapered off while other programs grew. CBS felt that Bergen's act had gone stale and saw an opportunity to make inroads in NBC's Sunday night ratings stronghold. They programmed Spade opposite the comedian. The Adventures of Sam Spade made its CBS debut on Sunday, September 29th, 1946, at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. On December 5th, with Suspense's rating cresting at 17.3, Spier used his show as a vehicle to drive listeners to Spade during one of the most memorable episodes in Suspense history, the house in Cypress Canyon.
Suspense.
Merry Christmas, Jerry. How's the real estate business?
Kind of early with your greeting, aren't you, Sam?
Well, I got to get them in sometime. I may not see you again until next Christmas.
If this real estate racket gets any crazy, I'll be dead by next Christmas. I'm glad you could get up here, though, Sam.
What's on your mind, Jerry?
You'll probably shoot me when you hear it, Sam, because I'm probably nuts. But doggone it, you're a detective and you're my pal, and I just had to tell somebody.
Well, you sound like it's serious.
That's just it. I don't know what it is, Sam, but... Now, listen, you know we're agents for a group of houses up in Cypress Canyon. Mm-hmm. Those places that were started before the war, never got finished.
Oh, yeah.
All I got in were the foundations, just concrete and a couple of beams. Well, they've been finished now. In fact, I'm putting up the for rent on the last of them today.
What do you want? Police protection from the mob?
Listen, Sam, this house that I'm talking about, it's got a number now, 2256. But before, when the men went back to work on it about 3 months ago, well, they just started when the foreman on the job brought me a shoebox that he'd found up on a beam. And this box had a manuscript in it, a story, kind of, all written out.
Yeah.
Well, he gave me the thing. I read it. I didn't think much about it. I put it in my desk. But the other day, and I happened to drive by there, I saw the number on the house and what the house looked like. I thought of this manuscript. And, well, I don't like it, that's all. There's something funny about it.
What's funny about it?
Well, mind you, this thing was found in an unfinished house in Cypress Canyon. House that was only just started building.
All right.
Well, listen, Sam, I want to read it to you if you got the time, and you'll see what I mean.
All right, shoot.
Well, here's how it begins. To whom it may concern, my reasons for setting down on paper what follows here will be abundantly
clear to anyone into whose possession it may fall.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did quite a few of those, as I remember. Once I got to know Bill, You know, he was kind of like that. If he liked you, you worked. You know, they weren't really paying me that much so that I should just specialize on Spade, so I had to do other things. But when we readjusted my contract...
Yeah, they got a scale.
There's nothing in the past life of either one of us to suggest remotely any cause or reason for the dreadful thing that has invaded our lives.
At first, CBS's idea seemed like a mistake. For the next 4 months, Bergen's rating averaged 26.3, and Spade's was 9.6. But then something funny happened. As the weather warmed, Bergen's rating fell 4 points.
The Adventures of Sam Spade, Detective.
Rather than follow suit, beginning with the ironically titled February 2nd, 1947 episode, The Dead Duck Caper, Spade's rating jumped 2 points.
Effie? Effie? Oh.
I waited. Say what you have to say and I'll go.
You've been through a tough time, sweetheart.
Well, you didn't make it any easier.
You think it was a cakewalk for me? You think my nerves are made of rubber?
You have no nerve. You're just a cold, callous
Shut up.
old detective.
You're going to listen to me. You're going to sit still, not talk, and listen. When I've finished, you can say goodnight or goodbye. But first, you're going to listen to me. You remember how it started? Yesterday evening, when you told me it was your mother's birthday, you were giving a party, you said, and you wanted me to come?
In March, Talman and Eisinger won an Edgar Award for writing radio's best mystery. Simultaneously, Howard Duff made his film debut in Brute Force, produced by the famed Mark Hellinger. It gave CBS hope for the fall.
You were introduced on the screen in the film Brute Force as Radio Sam Spade.
Radio Sam Spade, yeah.
Right up in the credits.
That sort of annoyed me at the time because I just thought they should just let me come on as Howard Duff and let it go at that. But as I look back on it, why knock it? What the heck? It'll bring a few more people into the box office, great.
That was a good motion picture debut. Was that indeed the first time you appeared?
That's the first time I was ever in the... Well, I did a training film for the Army, but that, you can't count that.
Here in my pocket, a bottle of... I have a wonderful idea. It'll make the party one big happy family. You just wait and see now.